Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep coach, and we're going to be diving into the Healing Sleep Workshop today. And this is going to be all about healing your sleep at its root, giving you a deeper and better understanding of what could be going on for you specifically. So let's go ahead and dive in. What we're going to be talking about, supporting you, sharing my story, offering some real understanding. This is the bulk of it about what is likely going on with your sleep. And then if you're interested, I'm sharing some supports on how I approach sleep through my coaching and sleep support community as an extra if you're curious. So who is this for? It's really for anyone just not getting the amount of sleep they desire. If you've been struggling for 10 days, your whole life, the principles really are the same. And as we'll talk about, I spent over 6 figures on these expensive treatments, therapies, and all the secret sleep hacks before getting to the root of what was causing my insomnia. And just as an aside here, I went through this, and this is how I found myself doing this work. I wasn't doing sleep coaching before this, but it's how I found myself with such deep care, and I really hope above all else that comes through in my work. And I also hope that you're reminded that you're not alone in this, right? And there's answers out there. I guess before I get into my story, I want you to consider this reframing about what could my body be trying to tell me with the symptom of lack of sleep. That's because sleep is a symptom, right? It's a symptom of your nervous system being dysregulated. It's a symptom of the body feeling unsafe to let go into rest. And today we're going to begin the processing of what that symptom is coming from in the body. And it's a new way to look at it. It's how I've been successful in healing my own sleep and hundreds of others of clients. And it really comes down to 3 main factors that hold people back. There's the biological lifestyle, right? And that's how the body issues can be contributing, right? Psychologically, that's another pillar, our relationship with sleep. And then the emotional aspect. What are we carrying or holding on to in our conscious or subconscious as we go into bed? And I'm going to get far more into these, but just wanted to give you a high level overview. So I'm Daniel. I've spent over 180 grand on meds, sleep clinics, traditional docs, functional medicine, Chinese medicine, neurofeedback, every biohack device I can get my hands on, and the list really goes on. So if you feel like you've tried it all, I'm telling you, I think I have some suggestions that might be new to you that could be really supportive. I spent an entire decade not being able to sleep. I was at the point that I didn't want to be on this planet anymore. My sleep was something I struggled with since I was in high school. I got debilitating when I was 22. I just moved to Austin, was living in an awesome community and excited to really explore things. But my sleep began to get progressively worse to the point I was only getting 2 to 3 hours a night. And I was following every sleep practice. I mean, every single one I could find. I was eating clean, meditating every day, taking care of my body, but really still nothing. This is a cute picture of me. I was waking up and going to bed in tears almost every night from the sheer pain that experience can create. So my heart goes out to you all if you're struggling with your sleep right now. Because I know normal things like work, trying to have a conversation even, or maintain relationships can feel like moving a mountain. And that's because sleep affects everything. At first I was spending about $10,000 a year, different medications, sleep clinics, and supplements. And by 25, I still wasn't sleeping any more than just a couple hours. And I just had these new symptoms from the medications. I imagine a few of you can relate to that. And this is where I started to increase my budget and get a little more experimental, right? So here's the list. I won't read it out to you. And I imagine that sounds familiar to a few of you because, there's so much out there and we're constantly seeking and exploring from this desperate place of just trying to get some rest. And it can be a real cash grab. And that's how I ended up, pretty desperate, moving into spending $30,000 a year, flying around the country, looking at these specialty clinics that deal with complex health issues. And I was literally buying any device that might help. So my memory and recall were shot. I was, taking Adderall to scrape by at work. I really didn't know what to do anymore. And so I was looking back at these $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 years. And while I was learning a ton, I was really all in on this. I was absorbing as much as I could. I almost saw no improvement. And another cute picture of me, but I didn't really understand the point of continuing to suffer anymore. This was one of my many rock bottoms because these years were a weekly fight for me taking my life. And at some point I knew I needed to do something different, right? Because this desperate spending and trialing of anything that claimed to help was just not working. And so this is when three big things happened. And the first is I was truly heard and seen. And you're probably like, why does this matter? But I found a coach who could actually see me in it, understand what I was going through, because he knew it too. And this allowed me to not feel so damn alone, not crazy, like I was broken. I mean, this was one person in 6 years who actually could empathize and understand what I was going through. And it's so rare. And I'll just pose that question to you. Like, do you have trouble finding someone who's been through it and really gets the challenge? It really validates you in your experience, because it can be pretty rare. And for me, this was life-giving. It turned down the suffering dial. I was no longer alone in my own pain. Now, the next thing is I stopped trying so hard. And bear with me, because I know this might sound counterintuitive, but I didn't give up. I let go. I worked towards peace and acceptance and a new relationship with my lack of sleep. So to explain that, I had to let go of all this control and spending countless hours and energy trying to fix, make my body out to be wrong, creating this battle with myself, trying product after product, because none of it was working. And all I was doing was, as I mentioned, creating a bigger battle of me versus me each night. And it's that fixation that was feeding the insomnia. And it was so interesting because it took me a while to put that together, but all this sleep research is now moving towards this way of thinking. And I began the process of working through, for the third pillar here, I began working through this emotional baggage I was carrying into bed. And I really got support to connect to the emotions, the stressors on a new level, and learn to really feel them through, right? So I could heal. Because you go through this, there's anger, grief, despair, hurt, frustration, sadness that can come with this. So we have to learn to move through that. And so for me, this is what began the path of healing. I began understanding my body did not feel safe to let go at night. That's a really important concept that I'm going to come back to. I didn't realize it yet, but I was healing my nervous system at its root. That's what this is about. Because for 8 years, if you look at it, I was treating symptoms and not the root. I was chasing these surface level fixes while my nervous system was screaming for help. And hopefully that idea of a dysregulated nervous system resonates with you. Because I was not rebuilding safety in my body by working through the emotional trauma, or what I was now doing, because I wasn't doing, but now doing, was rebuilding that safety. And that's the emotional work. I was rebuilding a new relationship with my sleep. That's the psychological piece. And I was seen and supported through the process, which cannot be underrated. Now, spoiler alert, actually happy. I have the best sleep I've ever had. I've been coaching hundreds of others to do the same for these past 8 years. And no doubt am I living in my purpose, and super grateful to be here on this planet, but just be in this position to help folks. So my hope is that you can hear that however long you've been struggling with this, or how bad or hard things are, there's answers, right? And it does not mean, I assure you, it does not mean spending thousands and thousands on treatments. Please let me be the only one that needs to learn that lesson. So I want to get into some of these key tenets of what I see as underlying all the sleep issues I come across. And same principles I've been using to help hundreds of other people get their rest back, whether it's, again, days, years, or a lifetime. Because it's my understanding that no matter how long you've been struggling or where it's coming from, these themes will help you get better rest. So we'll come back to these three root causes: the biological lifestyle, the psychological, and the emotional. And every human is different, right? And the answers to yours isn't a one-size-fits-all thing as much as the internet wants you to think so. So let's explore what these are about. So for the biological lifestyle, dialing in proper sleep hygiene personalized to you. That's an important caveat. Optimizing movement to train your circadian rhythm, learning to eat anti-inflammatory, and aligning with your chronotype. And I wish someone had told me this first one, like learning to intuitively pick and choose what hygiene practices are supportive is a big deal. Because if I were to give all 50 plus protocols to someone who sleeps well, they would almost certainly sleep worse, because there is now so much fixation and constriction around your sleep. Your body has to be ready and open to the change you're trying to make, otherwise it will fight it, right? So I have my top 20 sleep hygiene suggestions in my sleep community, but feel free to look them up and choose the ones that feel nourishing to you and not overwhelming. And maybe I should explain chronotype here. For those who aren't familiar, it's our our biological clock that we're born with. And we all tend to be early risers or night owls. We've all heard of that. But also everything in between. And this can shift with time and age, but generally it's a genetic predisposition we have. And living within that rhythm can increase our quality of sleep because we're not fighting our biology. All right, so the psychological component. This is our relationship with sleep. This is working with a mind that won't shut off. This is tapping back into purpose. And in my experience, most of you have some amount of sleep anxiety or fear, even if it's on the more subconscious level. And our brains are highly associative. So even after just a bad couple nights of sleep, the bed becomes a place of challenge instead of peace. And journaling this is, one of the easier ways to begin to address it. And we simply allow ourselves, whatever the worries are, to actually be there. Right? We practice seeing and understanding them, being kind to ourselves as you might a child. This compassion before bed can really help to shift your relationship with sleep because, reworking this relationship, let me explain, doesn't happen overnight, but these are the principles that will absolutely help make that shift over time. So moving into the emotional aspect, this is unresolved emotions, stressors in the conscious or subconscious that still have a hold on you. Loneliness is a big one, lack of connections or self-acceptance, self-love. And then another one is being seen and heard. And so for almost everyone, there's an aspect of this. And leaning into our emotions, working with that self-acceptance, that self-love piece, being seen and heard, all work wonders for rebuilding a healthy nervous system that feels safe enough to rest deeply. And I see it all the time. This might feel like hard advice to put into action, but just planting the seed today is important. And so much of this, as you're hearing, is about recreating safety in the body so that it can let go at night, because sleep is something we can't force. It's something that happens, not something we do. It's something that, that's where a lot of the traditional advice gets it wrong and tends to perpetuate the problem. So I want you to check in. Which of these pillars, biological, psychological, or emotional, or combination, do you feel like is at the root for you? Right, take a moment, just jot this down. Is it more in the biological, more in the psychological, more in the emotional, or is it really a combination? And feel free to pause the video and check in, but what I would say is most of the time it's a combination, right? It's rare that I see it not having some amount of psychological or emotional factor being in the mix. And again, sleep issues start from different places for everyone, and there's no perfect one-size-fits-all fix. But I see it all the time. When we're able to focus on the aspects of the psychological, the biological, and the emotional that are affecting things, that's when healing happens. And we're not going to deep dive into every root cause today, but I want to share it at least at a high level to build some awareness around where your sleep could be challenged. So this is my healing sleep roadmap. I put it together for my sleep support community, and it's got an assessment tool with 16 different videos and worksheets depending on what you need, but I'm sharing this so you can see the different elements. I'm just going to read through them real quick. So from the biological aspect, right, there's personalizing sleep hygiene, dialing in nutrition, working in alignment with where you're at, understanding your chronotype and environment. Now the psychological, it's sleep anxiety and fear, overthinking and racing thoughts, turning sleep into a battle, sleep identity, and mind-body disconnection. Now lastly, the emotional piece, the unprocessed emotions and stressors, purpose and alignment, loneliness, self-acceptance and inner critic, and then reconnecting with peace and joy. All of these can play a role, but it's important to work with the elements that affect you most. And I know what I'm introducing can be hard to put into practice immediately, which is why I offer support around all of it. So I'd love to share a quick story. And this is about Tracy. And she was one of the first members in my sleep support community. And she thought she was the only one unable to solve her sleep problem. And she told me on her first call, I barely slept for decades, tried everything I could find online, every medication, everything the doctors told me, but still it isn't working. What's wrong with me? It's a common thing I hear. What is wrong with me? So I wonder if you relate to that. And we started on a simple plan to disarm the battle she was creating with herself at night. And I asked her to take time with that question I posed in the beginning. What could my body be trying to tell me with the symptom of lack of sleep? And of course, like most people, they doubt at first, but when you don't know what else to do, you tend to open your mind and try something new. And So she decided to trust, and she worked her way through some of the course videos. She showed up to the live calls on occasion, but she really stopped beginning to feed the war with it that she was creating with her own body, and began nurturing it rather than making it wrong, right? And that really shifts the psychological relationship we have with sleep, which is a game changer when it comes to rest. Then we started working with allowing emotions to feel, or emotions to actually feel what's here rather than kind of skirting or turning away from them. And that's a common way we abandon ourselves. Feeling through any emotion that came up around sleep, all while being supported in a community that really understood. And so also let go of a lot of the lists of sleep practices. So many people come in with tons of trying to be perfect with their sleep practices, but all that does is create pressure around your sleep and makes it more challenging, actually. So this is when things change. 1 month in, she sent me this message where she said, truthfully, I feel like you helped me find my root cause and fix it. And there's nights I still don't sleep as well as I'd like, but I stay calm about it and usually fall back asleep so much faster than I did before. And in 2 months, she was able to put an end to those countless nights of little to no rest. And I mean, these are the moments why I created a support group around this. And I know everyone's story is different because it comes from different places, but I want you to see what's possible, because for some of you, it won't be all about feeling. Some of you will be more about the anxiety around sleep, or simply finding better, consistent, more routine around sleep that's in the way that supports you. So I just know too damn well you have to address what's underneath. So if you're open to it, I'd love to share a little bit of how I support people here. Because what I offer is not another sleep hack. It won't solve your sleep overnight. It's not another supplement. It's really about healing sleep at its root. And what's wrong with what I see out there, and why I think it failed me and everyone else I've worked with, is that it's so focused on the symptoms and not the root, right? So medication, over supplementation, chasing the downstream effects of lack of sleep. Even with all the biohacking devices, all of this, it's honestly can create a numbing effect, so it's harder to actually get at the root. And not to mention that it's rare that I see any of these products supporting people long term. I mean, other issues then are there's such a big focus on the biological and lifestyle changes, which there's an element of that, sure. But sleep hygiene, yeah, great and important to consider, but it's overhyped as the main fix, when it's usually just a support, because retraining your nervous system, retraining your circadian rhythm is just one aspect of this thing. And most of you would be just fine if you had a healthier relationship with sleep, and we're able to address some of the underlying baggage we carry into bed. So because none of these things can actually override a nervous system that does not feel safe at night. So yeah. I want to just share real quick, who could be supported by this, healing sleep at its root. And that's for anyone that is frustrated, exhausted, if you feel like you've tried everything, if you understand that the quick fixes are only temporary solutions. I've created a place for people that are struggling with their sleep to access, tools that have helped me and so much more. And I call it healing sleep at its root. So I'm just going to go through this real quick. I have a weekly group support call and Q&A, and this is where members come in to be seen, heard, supported, talk through questions and challenges, and be reminded you're not alone in this journey. And then for what's most popular is my courses. So I have every aspect that we've talked about in that Healing Sleep Roadmap. It's a course with worksheets throughout to help you no matter what the issue is, overthinking mind, falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up at 3 a.m. It's all there to support you from a holistic lens. And then there's the beautiful thing of the community, supporting one another. I'm in there every day answering questions, so there's no shortage of support. And it was difficult to attach a dollar amount to this, with the courses, the live calls being a culmination of $180,000 and 10 years of learning how to sleep. And I wanted it to be affordable though, so more people could heal. So I made it $8 a month. And I hope that sounds stupid reasonable, because it's cheaper than any supplement protocol or device on the market. But this is actually about lasting change. And I was even doing some research, and I saw that similar levels of support were charging $250 a month and asking for $1,000 up front. And I just know healing doesn't have to cost that much. So Joining today, or join whenever you can, like that will lock in your price at that price point, and you can easily cancel at any time. I'm not trying to keep anyone in there that isn't getting the support or feel like it's worthy. So if at any point you want out, like, no big deal at all, even if it's just because you don't like the sound of my voice. So I always pose the question of, like, what is lack of sleep costing you? For me, it was everything, right? It was my life, my well-being, my finances, for sure. So I really encourage you to check it out, give this a try. I really know how rough sleep can be, and we're not getting any of it, or an adequate amount of it. And I got into this to support people. It's a way to make all the suffering and money I spent worth it, putting towards helping others. So I hope you feel that and hear that. In the description below, I'm going to put the link for it. Or feel free to shoot me a question in the comments below. I'd love to help anyone out that is looking for some support and give you some direction on what's going on. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And hopefully you get some rest.